Hello, I'm Jonasz Lewiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. The security of the Baltic Sea region has been high on the agenda recently, given especially the recent incidents taking place in that space, most of them associated or attributed to Russia. So with Poland now announcing it will enhance its cooperation with Sweden, also possibly with the wider Nordic region, the big question is what's coming next to both the Baltic Sea and, of course, to all the NATO members operating in that space, and how can this actually be used to enhance security even further? Joining us now to discuss this are Vaidotas Malinionis, founder and managing director at the National Defense Foundation, and Louis Wierenga from the International Relations Institute at the Baltic Defense College. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
So, Vaidotas Malinionis, what do you think is likely to be the most crucial challenge right now for countries which are enhancing their cooperation, of course, in the field of security, with Poland's Donald Tusk and Sweden's Ulf Kristersson announcing that this cooperation will be taken to new levels? But what will be the most immediate concerns for all the countries involved?
Well, I think this initiative is very welcome, and maybe it's even too late, because those hybrid threats are rising and war is happening, and we are NATO countries in Europe. We also under attack. Even there is no conventional attacks yet, but anyway, hybrid threats are rising. And to mention those cables which were broken in the Baltic Sea, and also our crashed airplane in Lithuanian territory in Vilnius, which is also not clear was it attack or not, but investigation is being done. And I think this step is very welcome, because we need, to organize faster decision making, how to mitigate with those threats which are rising, and this step will initiate, our proactive activities, because right now we in Europe, the NATO countries, we are more reactive, and organizing in such kind of, as Donald Tusk proposed to organize patrolling in the Baltic Sea. I think it is very welcome, and this will make us to re-evaluate and also to look at what kind of tools and measures we can organize together, and also we will inventory all those tools, and that is also will make proactive more all countries which are connected to the Baltic Sea. So I think it's a very important step, and probably it will make difference. So I hope that it will make us be more proactive and to mitigate those threats which are rising and coming.
And Louis Wierenga, do you think that the Baltic and Nordic countries, and of course Poland, which is not strictly one of the Baltics, but is situated in the region, would you say that these countries, in a way, are a perfect fit in order to introduce this new proactive approach, given that they share a realistic stance vis-à-vis Russia, as opposed to a certain political idealism which has plagued much of Western Europe for quite a while before the war in Ukraine?
Yes, I absolutely agree with that statement. I think that Poland and the three Bs, the three Baltic countries, have a lot to share when it comes to accurate knowledge on Russia. I think that the point has been received from allies further west of the Polish-German border, for example, but that it is maybe not wishful thinking on their part to have the security environment deteriorate to what it is right now. But if you go back and look at the summit communiques since the second phase of Russia's war of conquest against Ukraine, you see that the language starts changing to reflect the situation more accurately. And there's a lot of talk about increased spending. I think now 3% would be what it really needs to be. And we're about 10 years away from the Wales summit, where allies agreed to spend 2% of GDP, but Poland and the Baltic countries all meet that target and beyond, and they are some of the exemplary allies. They set an example, but the reason for that is because of the security environment that they operate in and the geography. And as my colleague said, with the hybrid threats, that's a really important component to be taken into consideration, because those are getting more frequent and more aggressive, and I anticipate them to continue to go down that route. So I think there's going to be a lot of difficult discussion at the next summit in the Netherlands this summer about the need for spending more, and for those who don't spend what's already been agreed upon, meeting that target and doing so as soon as possible.
So, Vaidotas Malinionis, would you agree that even though we are building strong foundations now, there is also a question of how fast will we be able to essentially reach this necessary level of preparedness? We have recently received a stark warning from the chief of the German intelligence, who said that Russia could be ready to mount some sort of provocation against NATO by the end of this decade. And he said not necessarily an outright war of invasion against large NATO members, but the Baltic states could experience something going beyond a mere hybrid warfare, perhaps an attempt to wrest away control of territories, using the presence of Russian speakers as an excuse. Do you think that what is being decided now will mean that this level of readiness for these threats will be reached in time?
Yes, about the timing is always, the tricky question, and I don't know actually, because time is running out, and we already it's almost 3 years since the full scale of invasion to Ukraine. And we still see that our European NATO political leaders, they still have some kind of lack of urgency, yes. So not all NATO members even achieved 2%. I think only, eight or seven countries haven't achieved yet. So this shows that this is really bad appreciation of the threats and really lack of leadership. But I hope, that such kind of projects, yes, will focus. I'm talking about, the unification on the patrolling, for example, on the Baltic Sea, will focus not only those countries who are initiating, this project, but also the others will focus attention on the threats, and probably will make for them the clear that it's the only way how to deal with such threats, because if we are not active, if we are not proactive, yes, this is an oxygen for Putin's activities, and they are only escalating the situation. So avoiding escalation by doing nothing is the wrong way, and we proved it many, many times since 2014. So we need such projects, and we need to organize ourselves and to unify as a region. And I just would like to remind you the Franklin's quotation that if we will not hang together, we will most assuredly hang out separately. So this is true right now very much.
Louis Wierenga, what about the present day? Russia is already presenting a major threat to the region, at least when it comes to the domain of hybrid warfare. We're experiencing GPS jamming. There are these mysterious incidents involving undersea cables, and it depends whether you believe in coincidences or not. And again, the plane crash in Lithuania, which happens just, essentially weeks after a similar plot was revealed to have failed, involving once again a cargo aircraft. So this time, unfortunately, we have a plane crash. We have one person dead. What should be the reaction at the present stage? Since if we assume that, we can no longer afford to ignore these threats, we are presented with a very difficult challenge of responding to what's happening here and now.
That's true. I think that a lot of them are interrelated, because just going back a quick point on the previous question that was asked to my colleague, I think if people asked the question, is Russia going to invade the Baltic states, for example? My answer to that is always that the story is currently being written, and we don't know. At this very moment, no, they don't have the capabilities, so it's always within the next couple of years. You mentioned that decade. And I think that that explains a lot of the hybrid and nonlinear activities that are going on right now. I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to that particular country. There are things that they can't do right now in order to test us being NATO, in order to provoke us, and in order to figure out how we will meet those responses. And I think that every single one of these incidents that happen, that occur, they're looking at how a specific country responds and how the alliance responds. And also, I think simultaneously, one of the things that they're going to do is try to politically break up the unity of our alliance in the domestic sphere. And as I said in the earlier question, I do anticipate these hybrid threats, these nonlinear incidences to happen more frequently and with more aggression. And the tricky thing about that is if you're faced with a kinetic threat or a kinetic action, then the response calculation is a bit easier. It's force for force. But if it's a cyber or if it's a non-cyber but hybrid threat, what do you do? What's the right answer? But I do see very much that politically in the three Bs, Poland and in the Nordic Baltic countries, they're taking this very seriously and they're meeting about it a lot and they are preparing to counter these measures. And I think that vigilance is one thing that's important. Remaining calm is another thing that's important, but really making sure that you have a strategy that allows you to outpace the adversary as well as respond to events that have currently taken place.
So now a quick question. Louis Wierenga, Vaidotas Malinionis, about 30 seconds for an answer because we're reaching the end of the program. Should we perhaps learn to respond in kind, like cyber domain operations? Why aren't we doing the same?
Yes, absolutely. I think, we should inventorize what kind of tools we can organize and also what kind of measures we can take. And also we should seek for our partners, Western allies, how to attract their attention to the region and how to increase our, deterrence.
And again, the same question to Louis Wierenga.
Well, I think that what we should do is we should be preparing for getting ready to do that. That's something that if we don't start changing our calculus in terms of thinking, I mean, we've played nice. We've tried to work with Russia for a long time, and it just simply doesn't work. NATO does not conduct cyber operations that are offensive per se, but what happens is that a country can ask another country to do it on their behalf. And I think if we don't start doing that, then we're not going to be able to adequately deter them from doing that again, because deterrence needs to have some oomph behind it. And I think that should be something that we think about.
So it's all about thinking out of the box. Vaidotas Malinionis and Louis Wierenga were our guests today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Rywiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.